Sometimes life feels like a room that once held music and now holds only a faint echo. The silence is not sadness, not an obvious depression, but something more subtle, more troubling, like becoming a spectator in your own existence. Sartre insisted that the world is not empty, it is we who stop inhabiting it from within. And you feel it, don't you? That slow dimming of the inner flame, that quiet fading of the colors you once took for granted. One day you wake up, and joy no longer arrives the way it used to. A message, a goal, a laughter, a song, they pass through you like wind through an open doorway. You stand there, present yet strangely absent, as if your body continues forward while your inner self lingers behind. Today, we begin a journey into that silent territory, not to judge it, but to understand it. Because hidden beneath that absence of joy, Sartre saw a doorway, and perhaps, without realizing it, you are standing right in front of it, waiting to step through. Joy does not vanish like a blown-out candle. It fades the way twilight slowly absorbs the color of the sky. It leaves gradually, quietly, like someone slipping out of a room without wanting to disturb anyone. At first you barely notice it. Your days look the same. Your routine continues. And yet something beneath the surface weakens. What once felt textured begins to feel flat. The morning light that used to hold a kind of promise becomes just brightness. The conversations you once enjoyed dissolve into background noise. Even the things that once thrilled you lose their vividness, as if someone had turned the saturation down on your entire existence. Sartre would argue that this happens when you stop authoring your life and start drifting through it, like an object pushed by invisible currents. You wake up, brush your teeth, go to work, come home, scroll through endless screens, all without truly choosing any of it. It is not that you dislike your life. It is that you have quietly stepped out of it. You move like a shadow, present but not participate in. And the strangest part is how normal it begins to feel. You tell yourself you are tired, or busy, or simply getting older. But underneath all of that, something more existential is unfolding. You are letting the world write your story for you. And the moment you stop choosing, your connection to joy dissolves. Joy does not thrive in a life that is passively lived. It requires engagement, authorship, resistance, desire. When those inner forces weaken, even the most beautiful moments pass by without leaving a mark. That silent drift, that subtle withdrawal from your own agency, is the soil where emptiness begins to grow. There is a line from Sartre that feels almost like a verdict carved into stone. We are condemned to be free. The word condemned is not accidental. Freedom is not a gift, it is a weight. It demands courage, presence, responsibility. And because it demands so much, we often try to escape it. We allow decisions to be made by our fears, our habits, our anxieties, our routines. Because choosing deliberately feels overwhelming. Freedom means admitting that your life is shaped by what you decide, not by what happens to you. And that truth is heavy. So you retreat. You stop choosing with intention. You let the momentum of yesterday dictate the shape of today. The job you no longer love becomes the job you tolerate. The friendships that drain you remain because change feels complicated. The dreams you once held so tightly turn into memories you rarely revisit. And bit by bit, your life becomes composed not of choices, but of defaults. Sartre believed that when you abandon your freedom, you lose the feeling of inhabiting your own existence. Life becomes something external, something that happens in front of you rather than through you. And when life no longer feels like something you are actively shaping, the emotional tether to joy weakens. Joy requires a sense of authorship. It requires knowing that the path you walk, even if imperfect, is one you have chosen. Without that inner claim, even the moments that should feel meaningful fall flat. You cannot feel joy deeply in a life that does not feel like it is yours, until the world begins to dull. You stop expecting surprise. You stop expecting beauty. You stop expecting yourself. The quiet tragedy is that nothing dramatic has happened. No crisis. No collapse. Only the gradual abandonment of your own freedom. The joy you lose is not stolen. It is surrendered, piece by piece. Each time you choose what is easy over what is true. Imagine you're in a world as a vast, quiet lake, a place where everything you are and everything you long for rests beneath the surface. Joy is the shimmer you see when sunlight meets the water. That sudden brightness that makes the whole landscape feel alive. But that shimmer is only possible when the currents below are moving. Those currents are your desires, your honesty, your choices, the subtle impulses that remind you that you are still alive inside your own life. When those currents stagnate, the surface grows dull. The lake begins to resemble a polished mirror, reflecting the world but feeling nothing of it. You can throw experiences onto that still water, new hobbies, new relationships, new ambitions, but without movement beneath. Nothing ripples. Nothing penetrates. You stand on the shore, watching life bounce off the surface, unable to break through. People often try to fix this by adding more noise to the world outside. More stimulation, busier schedules, louder distractions. But the truth Sartre points to is far more uncomfortable. Nothing outside can move water that has grown still inside you. Because the real issue is not the world failing to offer beauty. It is that your inner landscape has gone numb. Stagnation is subtle. It creeps in when you stop listening to your own desires, when you silence the voice that once guided you, when you forget to check whether the life you are living actually feels like yours. And as the currents fade, joy being delicate, living only where there is movement disappears first. It is not a sign of failure. It is a sign that your inner world is asking to be stirred again. Maybe you slipped into autopilot not because you are weak, but because life demanded too much from you for too long. Perhaps you've reached a point where feeling deeply became exhausting. Or maybe you tried so hard, loved, built, aspired, invested, and the world did not respond the way you hoped. So you began to protect yourself. Not with anger, not with walls that others could see, but with a quiet, invisible strategy: numbness. At first, this emotional shield feels like relief. Your heart stops aching. Disappointment becomes quieter. Worry loses its teeth. You convince yourself that this is maturity, stability, control. But numbness is never selective. When you shut out pain, you also shut out wonder. When you silence vulnerability, you silence joy. The world becomes safer, yes, but also smaller, flatter, stripped of its depth. Sartre would say that this protective numbness is a way of refusing the full weight of existence. You step out of the spotlight of your own life and hide in the wings, where nothing can hurt you, but nothing can touch you either. And slowly, the self you used to recognize dissolves. You laugh less, not because nothing is funny, but because you no longer allow yourself to be moved. You dream less, not because you are incapable, but because dreaming requires a softness you have locked away. You hope less, not because the future is bleak, but because hope makes you vulnerable. What began as a moment of self-protection becomes a quiet form of disappearance. You lose connection not only to joy, but to yourself. And yet, this loss carries a hidden message. Your numbness is not proof that you are broken. It is proof that you once felt deeply enough to need protection. It means there is still something in you worth defending, and more importantly, something in you worth recovering. Sartre spoke of a feeling he called nausea, that strange disorientation that comes when the world you thought you understood suddenly feels foreign, empty, stripped of meaning. But contrary to what many assume, Sartre did not see this as a collapse. He saw it as an awakening. Nausea is the moment the illusions fall away. It is the moment you realize that the meanings you inherited, the routines you repeated, the identities you performed were never fixed, never guaranteed, never truly yours. When nothing brings you joy anymore, it can feel like standing in a room you once knew by heart, suddenly unable to recognize a single object. The familiar becomes distant, the comforting becomes dull. Even your own reflection feels slightly out of sync. You ask yourself why nothing touches you, why nothing moves you, why everything feels muted. But this mutedness is not the end of something. It is the exposure of something. It is the moment the world reveals itself without the stories you once used to decorate it. And though that revelation feels unsettling, it is honest. You begin to see your life without the soft filters you once used to make it tolerable. You start noticing where you have been absent, where you have lied to yourself, where you have accepted what was never meant for you. This is why Sartre saw nausea as a doorway, not a dead end. When the world loses meaning, you are finally free to create your own. When nothing feels joyful, you are finally able to ask what joy actually means to you. When the old patterns stop working, you are forced to look at the deeper truth. Meaning is not something you find, but something you choose. And perhaps the reason life feels hollow right now is because you have outgrown the meaning you once lived by. The hollowness is not telling you that your life is empty. It is telling you that the container that once held your spirit has become too small. Here we reach one of the most subtle and powerful insights in existentialism. Joy does not return through pursuit, but through alignment. You cannot chase joy the way you chase goals or achievements. The more you grasp for it, the more it slips through your fingers, because joy is not something you capture. It is something that emerges when you are being truthful with yourself. Sartre would say that freedom, not happiness, is the core of human existence. And when you are not free on the inside, when you are trapped in roles, fears, expectations, or old identities, you cannot feel joy. Even if your life looks perfectly fine from the outside, people try everything to recover joy. New routines, new relationships, new distractions, new ambitions. But these are just attempts to paint color on a wall that is cracking beneath the surface. Real joy does not come from rearranging the furniture of your life. It comes from unlocking the door you have kept closed inside yourself. And that door is marked with a simple but frightening truth. Choice. The choice to admit what no longer resonates. The choice to release what is familiar but lifeless. The choice to walk toward what feels uncertain but genuine. Joy rises naturally when your inner life and your outer life stop contradicting each other. It rises when you act from authenticity instead of habit. It rises when you stop performing the version of yourself that others expect and start living the version that feels real. This is why the pursuit of joy often fails. Joy is not an objective, it is a consequence. It appears when you reclaim your freedom, when you inhabit your choices, when you take responsibility for who you are becoming. And in that reclamation, even the smallest decision can light a spark. A different word spoken, a boundary set, a silence honored, a truth finally acknowledged. These small inner movements stir the waters of your inner lake. And whenever there is movement, joy begins to shimmer again. Think back to the last time you felt even a flicker of aliveness, a moment so small you might have dismissed it. Maybe it was the way the evening light touched a wall, the sound of someone's laughter drifting from another room, a sudden breath that felt fuller than the others. These moments seem insignificant, but they are not. They are signals, small sparks in the dark. Reminders that your inner world has not disappeared but has simply gone quiet, waiting for your attention. Even when you feel numb, there is a part of you scanning for meaning, searching for warmth, longing for movement. You might think you are empty inside, but emptiness is rarely true emptiness. It is often the space that opens when something old is fading and something new has not yet taken form. Sartre believed that consciousness is like a beacon, always reaching beyond what is present, always leaning toward possibility. And though you may not feel it, that reaching has never stopped within you. The fact that you notice your numbness means you are already awakening from it. The fact that you long for joy means you are already aligned with life again. Longing is not weakness. Longing is proof of life. It is your deepest self reminding you that you were made to participate in the world, not drift through it. But here's the paradox. Those small sparks you remember are not random. They appear in moments when you are subtly, even unconsciously, more present. When your guard slips, when your mind quiets, when you stop performing and simply exist. Those are the moments when you accidentally return to yourself. And the spark you feel is not joy returning from elsewhere, it is you returning to you. The spark is a signpost. It is the quiet voice saying, there is still something in this world that can touch you. You just have to learn to meet it again. Sartre believed that meaning is not something handed to you, but something constructed through your choices, your attention, your engagement with life. But when your days become filled with obligations and noise, when you run from task to task without checking whether any of it nourishes you, the ability to create meaning diminishes. You stop asking why. You stop questioning what fits your spirit. You stop imagining alternatives. Life becomes a series of functions to perform rather than a space in which to become. And slowly, your sense of purpose dissolves. Not because your life is purposeless, but because you stopped shaping it. In T-state, even pleasurable things lose their flavor. You might try seeking meaning by consuming experiences rather than creating them. Binge-watching shows, scrolling endlessly, buying things you hope will fill the void, overworking to feel valuable. But consumed, meaning always runs out, because it was never meaning. It was distraction. It was noise pretending to be depth. It was movement pretending to be direction. Sartre would insist that the well of meaning dries not because the world has nothing left to offer, but because you have stopped digging. And digging is uncomfortable. It requires facing your own desires. It requires questioning the life you have built. It requires admitting truths you may have avoided for years. But in that discomfort lies your power. The moment you dare to create meaning again by choosing differently, by questioning sincerely, by living more truthfully, the world begins to feel alive once more. Meaning is not found in grand gestures. It is found in reclaiming your role as the author of your own existence. And when meaning returns, joy follows naturally. The way sunlight fills a room the moment you open the blinds. Sometimes the absence of joy is not a mystery at all, but a quiet consequence of living too long without telling yourself the truth. You move through your days carrying silent contradictions, insisting that everything is fine while your inner world whispers that something essential is missing. You downplay your pain. You justify what exhausts you. You cling to roles you have long outgrown because change feels frightening, because honesty feels disruptive, because admitting the truth might force you to rearrange the life you've spent years building. And so, you keep moving forward with a smile that no longer reaches your eyes. But self-deception has a cost. It disconnects you from your own emotional compass, numbs your sensitivity, and slowly erodes the sense of being alive inside your own skin. You begin to feel like an actor performing a script you no longer believe in. And when you live like this long enough, joy cannot survive. Joy is incompatible with inauthenticity. It cannot grow in a life where your words and your heart do not match, where your actions contradict your desires, where your outer stability is built on inner compromise. Sartre believed that bad faith, a refusal to acknowledge one's freedom and the truths that come with it, creates a fracture within the self. And that fracture is where numbness leaks in. You tell yourself that the relationship is fine, even though you no longer feel seen. You convince yourself the job is good enough, even though it suffocates you quietly. You pretend your dreams don't matter anymore, even though they still glow faintly in some corner of your mind. Every time you do this, joy recedes a little more, because joy demands alignment. Joy demands courage. Joy demands truth. And the moment you begin to admit even one small truth to yourself, this no longer feels right. This hurts. This is not who I want to be. Your inner world begins to stir again. It is painful, yes, but it is real, and joy can only return to what is real. Yet there is another truth waiting just beneath the numbness. A truth as quiet as a breath and as powerful as a storm. Joy begins to return the moment you re-enter your own life. Not when everything is solved. Not when every wound is healed. Not when the path ahead is clear. Joy returns when you begin to participate again, even in the smallest ways. You might think the solution requires a massive change, a dramatic transformation, a complete reinvention of your world. But existential transformation rarely starts with grand gestures. It starts with presence. With choosing something honestly, even if the choice is small. With allowing yourself to feel again, even if what you feel is uncertainty. With listening to the faint signals from within, the ones you've ignored for years because they didn't fit the life you were trying to maintain. Sartre believed that authenticity is the birthplace of meaning, and meaning is the soil in which joy grows. So joy does not return when your life becomes perfect. It returns when your life becomes yours. Pay attention to the subtle shifts. The moment when you say no to something that drains you. The moment when you allow silence instead of forcing conversation. The moment you walk slower, breathe deeper, notice something you usually overlook. These are not trivial. These are the first ripples in the lake that has been still for so long. You stir the water by living more truthfully, more attentively, more deliberately. And as the water moves, even just a little, the light begins to return. One honest choice can illuminate an entire inner landscape. One moment of authenticity can make the world feel awake again. And once that spark appears seven fenti, you will know that you are no longer numb. You are becoming yourself again. And now we arrive at the threshold, the place where numbness reveals its hidden face. What if this emptiness you feel is not a failure, not a decline, not a sign that your life has lost its meaning, but a preparation for transformation? What if joy has not abandoned you, but stepped aside so you could finally hear yourself without distraction? There comes a moment in every inner journey when the old self breaks open, not with noise or drama, but with a profound, disorienting silence. You wake up one day and realize you can no longer force enthusiasm for the things that once carried you. The life you built with such effort feels distant. The dreams that once guided you feel too small. The identity you wore for years begins to loosen, slipping from your shoulders like a coat that no longer fits, and you interpret this as emptiness. But what if it is space? What if numbness is the clearing, the wide, silent field where a more honest version of you is waiting to be born? Sartre believed that the self is not a fixed object, but a continuous act of becoming. And sometimes becoming requires unbecoming, shedding, releasing, letting the old meanings crumble so new ones can emerge. This is why your joy feels absent, because you are standing between versions of yourself. You are leaving what is familiar, stepping out of the structures that once held you, drifting towards something you cannot yet see. And in that in-between, joy pauses, not because it is gone, but because it cannot rush ahead of your becoming. It must wait for you to catch up to the truth you are growing into. The ache you feel is not emptiness, it is expansion. The numbness is not death, is gestation. And the silence inside you is not a void, it is a new beginning, inhaling its first breath. When joy returns, and it will not be the fragile joy you once knew, the joy dependent on circumstance or validation. It will be a deeper joy, born from authenticity, anchored in freedom, lit from within by the self you are finally becoming.